All right. So welcome again, everyone, to this Christmas Eve meditation. We just began the recording for YouTube and Unspeakable Bliss. I'm going to be sharing a small passage from Rupert Spira's book, Being Aware of Being Aware. And it's a bit lighter hearted than the previous Meister Eckhart passage we just shared. This is from a chapter called Trailing Clouds of Glory. When the Zen teacher, Shunren Suzuki, this is a man who's meditated his whole life, and actually, I think he wrote the book Zen Mind, Beginner Mind. When the Zen teacher, Shunren Suzuki, was once asked why he never referred to his enlightenment experience, his wife, who was sitting at the back of the hall, stood up and said, "Because he never had one." The recognition of our true nature is not an exotic experience. Indeed, it is not an experience at all. In this recognition, our essential, irreducible, self-aware being simply loses its apparent limitations, and its reality stands revealed, open, transparent, luminous, indestructible, unborn, and undying. When such a mind rises again from the heart of awareness and ventures out into the realm of objective experience, it does so, as William Wordsworth said, trailing clouds of glory. That is, it rises from awareness, still saturated with the imperturbable peace and causeless joy that are essential qualities of awareness, and makes these available to humanity. So feel free to make yourself as comfortable as you can if you're already not. That can be sitting or lying down. And that's the idea here with this meditation, and really any meditation I've led, which is to tune into and feel this imperturbable peace, this causeless joy, not by us doing anything different, but just recognizing that some piece of our experience is already that. Really love the definition of meditation as the art of not doing anything. The Western mind likes to turn even not doing anything into sitting here and really being the one doing something, being the one trying to get somewhere to achieve something, even if it's peace or even if it's relaxation through meditation. And the idea here is to tune into the fact, the experience, or rather what underlies our very experience, that peace, that freedom, that relaxation that we're seeking is actually present. It's the beautiful paradox of a meditation practice. because we're not practicing to get anything. We're just sitting to sit. And it's really incredible, the richness of different experiences that are just naturally unfolding as we sit here. It can appear like there's actually quite a lot going on, even though we're just sitting here. And in that way, I sometimes think of meditation like I'm sitting down to watch a movie, and there's the physical sensations, how your body feels sitting where you're sitting or lying where you're lying. There's the thoughts, the emotions, the breath, all these different kind of windows we look into, the sounds. It's this curious inquiry of to who or what is all of these phenomena arising. It's kind of wild. It's wild and it's unknown. And it's kind of nice to just sit and go, oh yeah, none of this needs to change. It can just be exactly the way it is, however that is, however I am, whatever I am. Excuse me, that was an accident. Meditation is still going. My coffee cup hit the gong. Pardon the abruptness of that. I guess anything's possible in meditation. My father recently, actually for quite a few years now, has had a meditation practice, and he'll share with me. He'll say, I'm just trying to stop myself thinking, just stopping my thinking. And I don't know where he got this idea from. And kudos to him if he can actually stop himself from thinking. But what I share with him and what I'll share now is that really it's just finding this place of coolness or peace, regardless of thoughts that are ping-ponging around. Stopping our stopping, so often we're always trying to stop something or prove something. Teacher that I admire, he says meditation is a universal yes to everything, an openness. A naturalness. And the word itself, meditation, means to become familiar with, to become familiar with the workings of our own mind, to notice when we're sort of blanking out, bringing the unconscious into conscious awareness. And as we come to a close of this part of the meditation, I say part of the meditation because I invite each of you, as we engage in a dialogue, to notice how if there is some kind of maybe peace or relaxation that you're experiencing, how it can be carried forth and brought into and through every moment of our day, including our dialogue. And I want to close with an invitation, which may or may not be new to you. Tomorrow is as you know, the representative celebration of Christ, Jesus being birthed, God taking on flesh. What a cool, beautiful story. And the invitation I have is that this same godliness that came into Jesus Christ is the same godliness that is animating our own flesh, our own bodies. This is the idea of the non-dual teaching, that we are all one. Of course, this can be a disaster for the ego if the ego goes, I'm Christ and everyone else is not. No, it's in all of us. Buddha nature. What's called Christed consciousness. I mean, can you imagine the possibility that that. That we are made of the same substance. Some would call that blasphemy of the highest degree. I think it's blasphemy to say otherwise. In the words of Mother Teresa, she was asked, what does she do in the streets of Calcutta as she's helping these poor and destitute children in India? And she responded and she said, I see the distressed face of Jesus Christ in every being. I don't know about you, but I can't say that 100% of the time, all the time, I am seeing the face of Christ in every human being, but I guess that's why we call it a practice. So notice as you transition, feel free if your eyes are closed so they can remain closed and we can continue our dialogue. Good luck finding the unmute button if you want to keep your eyes closed. And
I have to leave, but I wanted to thank Christopher and Zalaka for hosting, and Merry Christmas to everyone here on this call.
thanks for coming, brother. It was a pleasure. It was a happy surprise to see you come in.
Thank you, John.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Brother, bye-bye.
I was noticing these beautiful spaces in between everything, in between when you would speak and there'd be silence, in between my ears where it would hear something, and then behind that seemed like the sound when you used to turn on the TVs when they were like a little box set and you'd hear the tiny little fuzz noises come on. And I was like, oh, that's in between my ear and my hearing. And then I'd hear Bach snoring, and then in between Bach snoring was the jingles of the wind chimes outside, and there was just space in between everything. And I was just observing the space, and that was really nice.
Reminds me of, I think, Alan Watts when he says that if music didn't have space, it wouldn't be music at all. It would just be one noise.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's nice.
You know, there was one thing that you had mentioned about the ego, and it reminded me of a passage that I heard from Wayne Dyer that said, ego is exiting God out. And that kind of, resonated with me in a different way. He says that, he says through birth, it just, you just had faith that, your nose was going to appear, your ears were going to appear. And then once we were born, it was just like, nope, we got it from here. We'll take it from here. Mm-hmm. Like the ego kind of chiming in a sense. Mm-hmm. I found that interesting.
Go ahead.
I just said that I found that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad my nose showed up on my face without me having to think about it.
That the passage, what I shared about Mother Teresa actually from Wayne Dyer, I heard talking about that in other stories. So. Spirit of Wayne coming through.
Yeah, I was just recently introduced to him about a month ago, and yeah, very inspiring.
His sister or his daughters were just on April Hanna. I don't know if you, Christopher and Zlatko, met her while you were up here. She was up in Saratoga and she was part of my journey. I don't think she came to the event, but she started a book club. And so we just read one of Wayne Dyer's books in her book club. But previously, she actually had his daughters on her Path 11 productions. I don't know if you recall when I was going to be putting together that whole thing with like Zelda and me and all this stuff. It was like just before the pandemic, but plandemic. Ha ha ha. But yeah, I just think it's really cool how he keeps popping up very powerfully lately. Like I've always known about him, but he's really he's making a comeback.
You know, I guess for me, when I kind of started this journey, it really kind of, for me, the whole mind thing kind of started with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So that's kind of where my journey kind of started with all of this in a sense. And I don't know, it's just when I came across Wayne Dyer, just something about how he delivers it. It's like he delivers it in like such a soft kind of way that it's just really in a way that you don't have any other choice but to just like grab onto this information that he's sharing, you know what I mean? And just like, and then I just recently, a couple weeks ago, watched his movie, The Shift. And it was just incredible. It gives me a whole new perspective on so many different things.
Well, there certainly are absolutely no accidents, because actually his book, The Power of Intention, I've listened to it like I don't even know how many times, because it's his transmission. But also Zlatka here, that's one of the first teachers that she was introduced to when it comes to sort of spirituality and things like this. And she actually got to meet him about a year before, or months before he passed, right?
Wow.
That's a cool gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling my mom, because he was really our main mentor, teacher. I said, Mom, we got to go see Wayne, because I have a feeling, he's getting older. I don't know how much longer he's going to be in this body. And then we went to go see him in Denver. And yeah, literally 4 months later, it was May, 4 months later in August, he transitioned. So that was a really big gift for me and for her to see him in the flesh, as he created so much impact in both of our lives. Really, really sweet. Such a father, grandfather essence.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's why I felt like it was just so easy just to gravitate to what he expressed, and it just, yeah, very grateful to have had experienced him for sure.
Christopher, I had this thought in the shower this morning. And I was like, oh, I'm going to share this thought with Christopher today. So I'm in the shower and I'm thinking about past lives. And I'm thinking about how it's weird that we call them past lives. But then I'm also thinking about, if it's a past life and I died in that life, then how is it going on at the same time, in which for me to call it past? And then I was like, fuck that shit, that doesn't matter. But that was the thoughts that were coming through. I was like reincarnation, but timelines, linear time. So, if we died in this, but we came back in that, but then we're not, because all the time goes on at the same time. And so I had this whole thought about it while I was just like washing my hair and all the water and the soap's coming out. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. so there.
Quantum shower thoughts.
Yeah, I was like, what? So I was like, this sounds like a great contemplation thing that would be really fun to just, I mean, like, I wonder what you think about that. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Zlatka seems like she has something to
She's
say.
excited. I can feel it. She's like, oh. Did you have a moment in the shower too, Z?
No, I didn't. Not today. However, I was really fascinated with the whole concept of past lives many years ago, and I went to go get a past life regression. And in this regression, I saw myself in different timelines and present, overlapping, past, all the things. And very, very shortly after that, I got into Mira Kelly's book, and Mira Kelly is actually this Bulgarian. She calls it past life because that's how people relate to it most, but it's really parallel lives, and that's the book. And Wayne actually forwarded the book.
Of course he did.
Yeah, her book. It's called Beyond Past Lives, and so. After reading just a little bit about it and tuning into time itself, time is always happening now. There are actually no past lives. That's how we relate to it. Well, there is no past, right? There is the concept of past. However, in everything is happening right now. And therefore, we can connect to all the versions of us through different timelines, future, past, present. However, they're all happening simultaneously. However, the most familiar reality is linear time. We're so connected to time, right? It's just, and so we have this notion of past lives because of, well, reincarnation, all these things. However, if any of us do past life regression, you're most likely going to see yourself in the future, in the present, overlapping. And so I like to think of it as parallel lives. All lives are happening now. They're just happening in different dimensions of time. And the time that we're most connected to is linear time. And so it's very trippy, but this is what feels most relevant to me. And a message I received 2 years ago, being in Florida, I received that we can tune into any energy, any archetype, any spirit, anything, because we're all of it. We're everyone. And so we can tune in. That's why when you call in archangels or whatever, you're really calling yourself. You're calling different versions of yourself, because it's all the self. It's all God, and God is experienced as each one of us individually. That's my kind of contemplation truth. I'm not saying it's the truth, but it's what I've come up with. Yeah.
It reminds me of the movie Interstellar, when Matthew McConaughey's at the end of the movie, like in outside of space-time and looking in on, and he's pushing that book. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but yeah. So anyway, I actually recently had an opportunity to ask Rupert Spira about, I said, how do you think the teaching that we're all one, basically, people call it non-duality, right? But the fact that we're just all interconnected, everything, and it's all now. How can that inform science? And even before I got to ask him the question, he cut me off and he said, I just interviewed Donald Hoffman. Donald Hoffman wrote this book called The Case Against Reality. And he talks about this idea of conscious realism, which is, in fact, what you're talking about and what Zlatka's talking about, how it's all just now and it's all somehow connected, obviously, if it's all just now. And I mean, I've had experiences meditating where all of a sudden I feel like I have memories of being a tree, not even a person. It's like, what do we do with that? Well, I think to Zlatka's point, like our minds are constructed to think in past, present, and future. And although it's not real, although it's a construct of the ego to help it. So like, I always make the joke, like, it's very useful to me to remember that I, even though this is just a representation, it's not real, put the cup over there so that I can then later pick it up and put the water in my mouth instead of pour it all over the place or forget that I even put it there. So to me, like the ego and the construct of past, present, and future is very, very useful. So I remember where my clothes are and I could put them on in the morning, but beyond those practical things, when it comes to the other more kind of intricate things, I don't know about that. And I'd be happy to share with you, or you'll see it, I guess, on Rupert's website. He said the episode will be published in January, and they're talking about the collapse. This is the last thing that I wanted to say. I just remembered the collapse of space-time and how quantum physics, mostly quantum physics, but other areas of science are seeing that space and time are not actually, it's a construct that we created to help us figure out some patternings, but it's not actually real, right? So, and one thing that points out to this, to your moment in the shower, I think that it has something to do with this, the quantum entanglement theory, which, there's a particle 7 miles away from each other, two particles 7 miles away, and they poke this one particle here, and the other particle 7 miles away moves. So they poke it and it goes like this, and the other one, not after, but it's going like that at the same time. So that blue science mind of like, oh my God, cause and effect is all wrong, because this isn't causing that, it's happening at the same time, which means it's not actually a molecule, maybe it's more like a wave, and it's all interconnected. And when they poke it here, it's manipulated in the same way, but they just started to have to rethink the whole idea of space and time because of the fact that, before they thought that maybe this could cause that, but the fact that the two are doing the same thing at the same time is pretty mind-blowing for sure. So for whatever it's worth, Cody, that's
it's for me it was just kind of like this very interesting moment where I was like, oh yeah, like, because these are things that, like, I've had a past life regression too, where I was a whale and I was an orangutan and I was a bird and I was, and I went through all these lives that I saw, and yet when I came out of it, they didn't feel like they were a long time ago. And so, like, I always felt that, like, I always had that feeling. And then I just, again, though, most of the time I don't spend a lot of time going down any of these rabbit holes, and I just do what I can with what I have to move me in the direction of the things that continue to call me, because the rabbit holes are a fun place to go sometimes, but you don't want to get stuck down there, because really at the end of the day, it's like, all right, does it matter? Does it matter? And doesn't it matter? Because it's the knowingness inside that you're just following what it is that you're feeling called to and what comes into your awareness. But it is fun every once in a while to be like, yeah, that's some weird, like, okay, my brain can't fully grasp that. So that's cool. Like, we're going to leave that right there for a second. But like knowing, like, there's a knowingness inside that I'm like, we don't know everything. I know we don't. And I know that this is maybe not as it's been explained to me, or as people have tried to explain it, because why would the question come up in the shower for me to even ask otherwise?
Okay, Cody, you're pointing to the whole, like, this is, I was going to say this at the end of the meditation, but our eyes weren't open, so it wouldn't make sense. I probably did this before with you, Cody, at some point, I imagine. I tell people, I'm like, you want to see a miracle? And they're like, yeah. And I go, look, it's spirit moving matter. Like, this is a mystery. This is a mystery. What? Yeah. This is just totally, absolutely, how am I having a conscious experience? No one knows. How are you? What, like, it's just, this is just an absolute mystery, the whole thing.
Yeah, and to speak on that, the mystery part of it is, and the rabbit hole that you talk about is kind of went down one of those probably about a week ago. And I started thinking to
Welcome
myself, I'm
back.
like, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, if we are our thoughts and we control our thoughts and we're the ones that are having them thoughts, and then if you have, let's say, a negative thought, why does it seem, at least my experience, it seems challenging to change that negative thought to a positive thought sometimes. But it's like, if I can think that negative thought, why can't I just change it into a positive thought? So I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. And I think it's something that I'm more trying to take control over, which I know that I can't, and rather than just letting it naturally unfold the way that it should. So, it's this rabbit hole that I'm going down like, well, why can't I just think positive immediately after thinking negatively? Like I should be able to do that because I made myself think negatively. You know what I mean? So I'm really struggling in the sense of, and I think I fixate on it way too much throughout the course of a day of, how I'm thinking all the time. And instead of just like naturally kind of letting myself just be me and just be, so finding the rabbit hole thing I went down. And yes, as it was fun to ask myself those questions and learn, I was also like, this seems awfully confusing. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I felt a sense of frustration with it in some kind of way.
Ken, I want to share with you something that happened just a couple of conversations ago. We were talking about this whole idea of the ego wanting to let go to make the situation better. But one of its favorite ways to let go is by gripping tighter. And then it's like, well, I'm really going to let go. And then so to the point where it sounds like
just like I had mentioned, right here, I'll take it from here kind of in a way. I'll take it from here and handle it. Right. I know, I didn't even put it that way. So thank you for that. Yes. I didn't
Yeah, absolutely. And it's continually trying to be like, this is fucked up. I'm going to do something to make it better. But every single attempt is only making it is gripping on more and more. And I'm doing this because it literally is gripping to nothing, because because the ego's this construct, right? And so Adyashanti, he's a teacher. It struck me. He's a Zen teacher. So hard, brother. When I read this a week ago, I think we were traveling here to Costa Rica, and he said, the moment you can surrender, the only moment that you can actually surrender is when you realize you absolutely cannot. And I was like, oh, that's so good and true. It's really that moment of like, this is hopeless. But, and that's why I think sometimes it gets so dark for people. Like the dark night of the soul gets really, really so freaking dark until they really realize like, oh, I never had control over this. And then finally, like to what you were saying, there's that like letting, you said the word letting naturally. And then it's like, oh yeah, wow. I was really, I often think of someone driving a car, and there's someone steering the car, and there's the passenger seat with the fake wheel, and they're like going crazy trying to, but it's not effective. You just sit back and enjoy the ride until it bursts into flames.
Yeah, and going back to Wayne Dyer in a sense of what you had said about, you try to squeeze something in. I believe it was him that said, if you try to squeeze water, you're going to squeeze nothing. It's just going to be nothing, at the end of the day. So, yeah, and that's where I think I'm getting to that point of, just sitting back and taking along the ride,
Yeah. That's the gene key that we're moving through right now, which it's these 64 different patterns of consciousness, different frequencies of consciousness that are seen in nature, in humanity. So the more we're looking at these patterns, the more we're seeing, oh yes, this exists within me and within everything else. And every 5.5, 6 days, we move through different transits, a different collective frequency. Just like the moon moves every 2.5 days, just like everything moves in cycles and patterns. And the gene key that we're moving through right now is moving from the shadow of self-obsession to the gift of naturalness, to the city of being. And this is what Richard Rudd, the author of the gene keys, this is what he's sharing, that it's kind of funny. This is like a really it's like, if you want a way out, this gene key gives you a way out. But he's like, but guess what, too many people they dismiss it because it's too easy. It's too easy just to be yourself, just to be natural, just to be you without
Like we want a
trying.
hard way. We want the hard way.
Yeah,
Right?
so we become so self-obsessed, like, oh, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? We become too me instead of just relaxing into our being and knowing that we cannot not be natural. We're actually always natural. So
That's a good one.
yeah, yeah.
That's funny. Speaking of Gene Keys, Latka, it's somebody's birthday tomorrow.
Whose birthday is it? Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have that gene key. That's your life's work. Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Can you explain like exactly what that means? That's pretty cool.
I'm not sure.
Having this conversation. It happens to be his birthday tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be super curious. I'll send Christopher the free gene key holographic profile, and you can like type in your birthday and see for yourself, because it does change every year. It moves like about a day, and this is on the cusp right now. So basically tomorrow is the last day of this gene key, and then we're moving into the next one, meaning I don't know if you're into the next one, or if this is the one, but if this is the one, that means that your life's work is the 10th gene key, which is what I just shared, which is.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. You kind of broke up a little bit. I didn't hear that last part.
Yeah, I will send the link to Christopher so you could double check, because it does, depending on the year that you're born, every year it changes about a day or so. However, if you are, I have a feeling you're already the next one. But basically, based on where the sun is right now, the gene keys are moving with the sun and the moon and everything, and so you can see your life's work, and maybe your life's work is the gift of naturalness, right? And how to embody this naturalness and how to share it with the world depends on your archetype, depends on your line. So after the gene key, you're going to see a line. It's going to say 10.1 or 10.2 up to 6. And each line represents a different story. Each line has a different character through which the gene key, this frequency, desires to express itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, for example, I have line 6, which is the visionary, the teacher visionary. And my gene key is moving from dislocation, like being lost in the world, to orientation, to feeling oriented in the world, to unity. So my highest aspiration, the Siddhi, SIDDHI, it means divine gift in Sanskrit. That's our zenith. That's our highest aspiration as a human that we can acquire in this lifetime. And all the cities are all speaking to the same thing. They're just different doorways to the divine, to the one, to God, to the creator. And so my life's work is to be a visionary, to hold the vision of unity, to speak about unity, to educate about unity, to share about and that's how we can orient ourselves. When we feel unity within ourselves, when the masculine and feminine come into balance, then we can see the wholeness in life. And it's just really useful to see the different codes that we carry, that we're born with, and how they play off. There's so much more information, but this is like a little
glimpse of it.
It's based on general, just like really generally. I'm saying this because whenever I hear her talking to someone about it, not whenever, but sometimes I'm like, man, I want to hear the more general thing. So I'm assuming that maybe you want to hear what I would want to hear. Anyway, it's based on astrology, the I Ching, which is the Chinese book of changes, which China over thousands of years ago, they would make important business decisions based on
life decisions, everything.
Yeah, any decision that's important, they would often consult this oracle and throw sticks, and these sticks would come out with, there'd be 64 different potential outcomes that would be representative of, and it worked for China very well for actually a very long time.
It's one of the oldest
Yeah, it's over 5,000 years old. So, and then the fact that there's 64 chromosomes in our DNA. So these codes, these gene keys are deeply embedded into the earth and into our biology as humans. And then based on the time that you're born, it's gonna kind of like spit out a profile and tell you which of those 64 gene keys, including the life's work that she talked about, is more prevalent in your package, you know, how you're coming and being in the world, although we all have all 64 gene keys within us, because again, it's based on genetics, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to kind of offer the zoomed out view too.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's interesting.
Oh yeah. My soul family is a lot of fun. They all have these beautiful different qualities and they all add something absolutely amazing. So you're actually sitting with two of my favorite humans in flesh.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
They're out in Costa Rica.
Sounds beautiful.
I'm going to go visit you guys in April.
I know.
April, beautiful.
Yes. I was just going to look at the dates again today, which dates are coming.
Yeah, so it'd be, let's see, the retreat that I'm going to is the 15th to the 22nd. So I'd be coming like the days before the retreat, like 3 days or something before it. Like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 or something like that.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So where are you tuning in from, Ken? And how do you and Cody know each other?
So, if you're asking where I'm tuning in from New York, and
Okay.
I mean, if it's cool to share, right, Cody? I mean,
Yeah, they know everything.
yeah, I was introduced to a Reiki instructor that I started seeing, and I was seeing her, and then she was just, you know, our last session we had, she was like, you know, your energy, she said, I just feel like I have to connect you with somebody that I know, and your guys' energies like just will flow. So I exchanged my information with Lynn, my Reiki instructor, and she passed it along to Cody, and then here we are.
You guys, do you remember Lynn Gelman? Blonde, older lady with blonde
Yeah,
curly
I
hair?
remember.
Yeah. Did you guys go see her like sessions, or did you? But she
I
came
think-
to our Windows to the Soul day treat.
I did do a
I think,
session
yeah,
with
Sladka
her.
did a session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's
that's Cody's and I's connection.
I see.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Lynn messaged me and she's like, "Hey, I didn't give this person your number because I didn't want to give it out, but she's like, I just feel like, you know, you guys might get along, and so he gave me his information if you want to chat." I'm like, "All right, sure."
And that's what I said. I said, you know what? I said, I'm completely open to it. Why not? I said, well, you know, what's worst case scenario? I said, and this is great because it was just interesting how it all unfolded too, because in the beginning of our session, um, you know, on this journey of mine that, you know, that's new to me in a sense, it's, I don't have many, we'll say, like-minded people in that way that I have surrounded around me. So I was having that discussion with her and saying, my growth is what I'm doing, my work and stuff, which is the important stuff. But, you know, when it comes to sharing this stuff and maybe bouncing ideas, it's, you know, I don't really have those people that kind of align in that way that maybe understand or want to understand that. So I felt like there was kind of this block. And then, like, at the end of our session, I mean, which you recommended this, and I was like, and it's just happening like this. I'm, you know, now I'm in front of these like-minded people, you know what I mean? That way I get to share this stuff with and hear your guys' stuff. And yeah, so it's just taking my hands off the wheel.
Hey, welcome home, brother. It's only gonna, now that you're in through the Cody portal, it's only gonna continue to ripple out and expand from here. So
yes, I'm very excited. I'm very excited. So it was like, at first I was kind of like, you know, with the Zoom call thing, I was like, this is something completely new to me. So at first I was just like, I'm like, I don't know. I think that was just my old programming in the sense that was telling me like, hey, you don't do these kinds of things. This isn't something you do. So you know, and I was like, I'm going all in. Let's do it. You know.
yeah, I'm laughing because I know so well about who I used to be or things I used to do, and then to the things that I do now. And so many times have I had those moments where even then in the new thing, I'm kind of, it's surreal, right? Because I'm looking at myself and I'm experiencing it. It's like, whoa, that guy back there would have been looking at that guy going, what are you doing, man? And I'm very happy about that.
Yes, exactly. So it's just God, it's just super exciting. It's super exciting. Yeah, that's the only thing like I can kind of say is this feels exciting, you know. But again, you know, I've also said, you know, there's times of, you know, I feel frustration through the process as well too sometimes, you know, but I'm hopeful for it and I believe in it, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever want to get immersed into like-minded, like-hearted people, just come here for a week or 2 weeks and you'll connect with so many incredible people.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
You know what's funny is when you're just when you're just talking about like, so even though, right, like been on this journey for a while, I still have those moments where I look at the old me thinking that the old me would be like, what the hell is the new me doing? And I had that at one of Zelda's she did like a meditation drumming thing the other night, and I'm sitting there and I'm like wailing on the drum and I'm making all these noises and I'm just like, "Blah," you know, like, yay. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, previous Cody would have been like, oh, she drank some Kool-Aid. Like, this girl lost it. Like, oh no, she's that woo-woo crazy lady in the corner with the drum yelling out, doing all this stuff. And then I look, and right as I'm having this thought, this other older woman is literally sitting with her drum and she's like, and she starts doing this and like her legs. And I'm like, all right, I didn't get to that level yet. And it was just really funny to like see that I was already thinking that I was like at that level by thinking from the perspective of the previous meanness. But that's how I thought I looked to myself. But then she did it. I'm like, oh yeah, now I don't look like that. And now I was like, oh, now I got like another, we'll get there so that we can say that later. So it was just this kind of funny little playfulness I had in my mind that day.
No, you know, going back to that, it's so true because, you know, just yesterday I'm hanging out with one of my friends and, you know, I'm telling him about this road that I'm traveling down and stuff. And, you know, he kind of made the joke. He says, oh, what are you going to start? You know what I mean? Not eating meat and stuff anymore and all that. And I said, I could be open to that. I'm like, you know what I mean? But then I look back and I'm like, you know, the old me would have just been like, no shot. I'll never not switch my diet in that kind of way. But now I'm like, you know, I think of myself, you know, in the sense of, you know, really my body is kind of just the garage where I put myself. But then why wouldn't I want to take care of this garage though? You know what I mean? That I store myself to at the same time. So, you know, if that's just going to make my garage better coated to, you know what I mean, support the inside me, then you know, I'd be open to those things. But, you know, just to go back, like, I mean, the old me would have just been like, yeah, no way, no shot. I'll never do that, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell people I'd die without eating meat. And then I didn't eat any meat for like, so did I start that 4 years ago? Now I think, and I survived.
You're
Yeah.
here.
Right.
Pretty funny. But anyway, guys.
So good to connect with you both, to see you, Cody, to meet you, Ken.
Thank you. It's been,
gonna,
it's really been a pleasure.
yes.
Feel free to add us on Facebook if you like, or connect
Absolutely.
with us.
Yeah, they're good people to have on the journey.
Yeah, sounds it.
Likewise,
Absolutely.
Cody.
Yeah, it's a good group. I love you guys.
Merry Christmas
love
Eve,
you.
everyone. Wishing you
Merry Christmas Eve. Happy day before birthday.
Yay, thank you guys. Enjoy,
Happy
okay? Take care.
birthday. Like the birth of Christ and Ken.
Here it is.
Same day.
In the flesh.
We were talking about. That's right. That's it.
All right, guys. You guys take care, okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, much love.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.